Hi, I'm here with Michael Vallen of Nomad Mobile Motor Lodge. I always forget the mobile one. So, or the motor one. Yeah, Michael is a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona, Bachelor of Architecture, and Master of Architecture from Virginia Polytechnic University. He specialized in residential and multifamily work in the Washington, D.C. region and Southern California, and a 1950s Airstream restoration expert with a workshop and restoration facility near Santa Fe, New Mexico. The work can be seen on Instagram at Nomad Lodge. Thank you, Michael. So I was talking to Michael recently, and he said that he was going to be coming out here to do some camping with his Airstream, and he said, can we meet up? And I said, yeah, sure. And then as we kind of like talked more, he said, because I really needed a break. He said, why don't you fly in to Albuquerque and I can pick you up and then we'll road trip on the way back. And we ended up going to Mesa Verde, and it was beautiful. And then just meeting up with some of his friends from the Airstream groups. World. Yeah, the Airstream World, and a couple of his clients and everything. So it was just great. It was just great. So, Michael, do you want to say anything about your business or your life?
My life. It's a great life. No, my love of Airstream started at Cal Poly in a survey course.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Charles Calvo taught a survey course, and each week it was some different topic that he would discuss. One week it was the Frank Lloyd Wright textile block system, and then one week was Airstreams. And he discussed the way that they're built and how unique they were structurally.
Uh-huh.
And that just sparked this fascination with them
that
I didn't realize I wanted to get involved in until about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sort of made me transition from building homes to refurbishing these really iconic pieces of American industrial design. And it's more than Airstreams now. It's there's other kinds. But
yes, yeah.
That's basically what the business I'm sort of considered an expert, and people seek me out because I can do what I can do with these things that are built very differently from anything that's built today.
Mm-hmm. And we traveled in Dimples, who has made several appearances on the movies and, on Good Morning America.
Dimples is a famous one, yeah. That poor thing rode hard and put away wet.
Oh, yeah. So what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
Well, I had to think about this because it goes way back for me. My family is kind of famous in the sense that back up. So my grandfather on my mother's side and his brother-in-law, so my mother's uncle, served in World War II, both in the Pacific Theater, but also they worked in the aerospace industry in Los Angeles because they were stationed there. Mm-hmm. So after they got back from fighting in the Navy in Japan in 1945, they actually were from Portland, Oregon, and they went back to Portland to get their wives. They were both married. They had children, my mother and other kids, and they wanted to move to LA to work in the aerospace industry. Mm-hmm. McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, all these companies were still building planes and things, and so they wanted to move. And they didn't have a way to get all their stuff to LA. So my mom's uncle, my great uncle, said, well, maybe we should build a trailer to haul our stuff down there, and then we can rent it to people who need to do one-way moves, because they couldn't find anyone who would rent a vehicle for them to do a one-way move.
Yeah.
You could only do two-way.
Yeah.
And that's how U-Haul was born. Mm. So my grandfather designed the first...
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, Michael.
I never tell anybody.
No, you never told me that. You know, it's funny because somebody recently said something about their last name, and they said, "Oh, have you heard of this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's not my family." And then he's like, "Have you heard of this, that company?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Yeah, that's not my family either." So it's funny that like this is like, "Oh, U-Haul? Oh, that's my family." Yeah.
So my grandfather designed and built these trailers, and they still are aluminum riveted construction.
Yeah, yeah.
And but my grandfather was also an architect.
Okay.
He had trained as an architect in the Navy, and he was got licensed right after the war, and so he built those first trailers and helped his brother-in-law set U-Haul up, and then it really became my great uncle's business.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they went off. But anyways, great uncle became pretty wealthy pretty quickly. And
Yeah.
he bought one of Frank Lloyd Wright's houses in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Which one?
It starts with a P. I can't remember the name. I always want to... I just don't remember. But I went there as a little tiny kid. He used to pick us up and fly us from L.A. in his private plane to all over the place. And I remember these various trips that we went on. And that house with the narrow hallways and the low ceilings and
Is it the one that goes down the slope?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you because I was
I'll
so young.
Because there was one that I saw on the house tour a few years ago that was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The children still own the house as far as I know. He had a lot of kids. He had 11 or 12 kids. And the oldest one, I believe, still owns the house.
Okay.
But so my grandfather was the architect, and I just remember all through my childhood when I'd go with my mom to visit them, their houses were just fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
You know, these big vaulted ceilings and exposed beams and beautifully placed windows, and they were always on hillsides, and they were always just like so different from anything else that I experienced in my little suburban world in the San Fernando Valley. So I didn't realize he was an art. I didn't know what that meant or anything, but he had a little library in their house that I visited the most, and he never spoke to me ever. He just didn't. He wasn't that type of person. He would always be doing something out in the yard or in his garage or whatever. And I would go into his library and pour through his architecture books. And I just remember distinctly looking at them. But he was a modernist. He was not a stylist at all. If you look at his work, it's, I don't know why he never got recognition like some of the people of that era did, but his houses were just, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's
just marketing, a lot of it, right?
Yeah,
it's like
marketing
and who you know.
He worked for the LA Unified School District, and I think he was in charge of, building lots and lots of schools all over the city.
Well, Diane Cahy's dad did
really?
some of the schools in LA too. Yeah.
So that was really the exposure, and I've just always, I love to tell the story because I didn't know or understand any of this until I was well done with college and grad school and working for 10 years. And then when my mom called me when her mother died in 2007, and she said, I got all the U-Haul drawings and all the original correspondences from my parents, and share with you.
Oh my gosh.
So she shares a little bit here and there. But, he did drawings for these little trailers. And I just thought, how in the world did I end up doing those two things?
Yes, exactly.
Which are like... So there's something that
yeah,
somehow got ingrained in my...
Yeah, of course.
Somehow that stuff got ingrained in my head. Because even as a kid, when I didn't understand the connection with U-Haul, but we would always use them whenever we were doing...
Yeah, but like everybody did, right? Yeah, right. We did moving down here from LA.
Yeah. And I'd look at how they were constructed and...
Yeah, exactly.
Was fascinated
and
with the whole...
all of the rivets. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that's totally... Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
So that answers your question.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible, because most people are like, oh, my parents weren't architects, nobody in the family was an architect, we didn't go to see this,
right,
blah, 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 but
I mean,
my dad
rich.
did. Yeah, that was definitely not. No, my dad did work for an architect, but he just is not. Yeah, I mean, he would have been perfect because he's not very good with money. But,
Oh my
and he
God.
is creative. I mean, he did end up doing construction also, but yeah. So what are 3 classic buildings that you like and why?
So my grad work was done at Virginia Tech. They had an urban campus just outside of Washington, D.C. in Old Town Alexandria.
Uh-huh.
And it was an experimental school. I actually did my 5th year there, and then I went there for grad school. And that's where I got exposed to California modernism, because I didn't at Cal Poly.
Yeah.
And what little I did, I didn't make any of the connections.
It's so strange. I mean, because somebody just posted, somebody from, Agents of Architecture, who I have a podcast coming up with, but there was a Raphael Soriano house in there, and it's like one of the only ones left. But he used to come and do crits at Cal Poly Pomona, but they would never show us any of his work or anything.
Right.
They would just say, "Oh, he's a great architect." Da 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 da.
Right. And
just like listen.
Work.
They would never talk about his work
and never explained what his connection was with all the other people that were working at the same time.
Yes, never.
Everything
they just
was shown in out of context, pretty much, and as an iconic piece of work with no understanding of how did that happen.
Yeah,
it didn't just pop out of thin air.
Yeah.
So I got exposed to the things that were going on in Southern California at this little place in Virginia, because I had an amazing thesis chairman who made me research to death and travel and visit buildings all over the country. And I was always drawn back to these people, the architects and their wives in particular, because what was really powerful to me is how influential the spouses were for all the famous, for Schindler with Pauline Schindler, and Neutra with his wife, and Richardson. All these guys had these really creative partners who really pushed them, because the women would get together and dream up little things that then the husband would execute or think about and design and build, and it was the social connections. And those social connections, that's what I realized, that these people all knew each other. And there was this whole sort of community of creative folks in the movie industry, in the music industry, in architecture, and all of this. And if you look at the client lists and you start reading, you start to and understanding how that architect made a connection with that creative person, whoever it was, and then designed their house. And so obviously there was this sort of synergy that was going on. And and you get the oddball like Wright coming in and kind of enforcing his dogma on, he tried it and it didn't work for him on LA, but those guys were really powerful. So to answer the question, my favorite, and it's a lot of people's, was Schindler, because Schindler was working with these very interesting clients who he developed relationships with, and they were relationships that lasted for decades in some cases, his whole life, his whole professional life, and their social gatherings and their social networking and all that stuff. And I think that really informed his work, besides the fact that the man was a genius and had an amazing ability to mold space. And so, I could say that the King's Road house is a favorite, but it really isn't my favorite. Some of his unrealized projects, I think, are really quite amazing, like the one I got tattooed.
Yeah, the one you have tattooed. Which one is that one?
It was the beach house.
The beach house.
But it was a beach house for no particular place or person. It was just, and this is a weird story. In grad school, when I'm studying all this stuff, I would just draw. And one day I sat down at my desk in my studio space, and I was drawing this 2-point perspective of a hillside and a housing complex on it. And it started off as this sort of just, let's see what I can come up with. I didn't have floor plans. I didn't have elevations. I didn't have any sort of preconceived anything. I was sort of working with the site I was going to do my thesis project on. And I was trying to see what I could do on that site, how I could kind of mold the buildings and step them up this hill, and how I could get people to move through the project. This is a big multifamily thing. And I drew this whole thing from out of nowhere. And Greg Hunt, my thesis chairman guy, he came by to visit me that afternoon, and I'm drawing away, and he's like, what is this? And I said, I don't know, it's just something I came up with. It's not really anything in particular. He said, you just drew this from out of your head? Are there any floor plans for it? Because he was a floor plan guy. Always wanted to see floor plans.
Yeah.
I was like, well, no, I don't really have any idea what the floor plans are on this thing, but it's pretty cool looking, isn't it? And he's like, yeah. So that was the kind of stuff, the kind of experimenting I would do.
So was that the house that you did on Dictionary Hill?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was sort of the first iteration, and there were many sort of experiments, but the Level Beach House is probably my absolute favorite Schindler building for sure. And then the other one that really struck me when I went to visit it in France is Villa Savoie. It's you can't really experience that building without going to it. You can look at all the photos in the world, but you don't really understand the scale of it. You don't understand the scale of the rooms and the materiality of the rooms. You don't understand how those windows work and how the columns interact with the ribbon windows.
Yeah.
It was just and the outdoor spaces. It's such an internally focused house, and yet not. It has that beautiful space in the center and that bathroom.
But they never show that.
No,
they only show the one elevation.
Right, the one elevation, and then they they don't show the parking plan for underneath it, which is magnificent.
Yeah.
So, God damn.
You can swear, it's fine.
No, I'm just it's just that kind of stuff that. So, that would be the other one, and and then I think I thought about this a lot. I could list dozens and dozens of buildings that are all equally sort of incredible and amazing, but I think I have to say that the development of the aluminum frame and skin travel trailer that happened after World War II was such an incredible turning point in how Americans live. That I'd have to lump them all together, but there's this sort of unacknowledged sort of fact that industry provided housing, and to this day is providing housing in such an incredibly thoughtful and useful way that I actually think that probably has a greater impact on the lives of more people than any singular piece of great architecture. And if you really look and understand that work, and I'm not talking about, little canned hams and real camper type trailers or anything that's built today.
Yeah.
What's built today is absolute junk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
what is
look
it made out of, fiberglass or something?
Well, they're simulating a suburban trunk house. That's what they're doing. That's how people use RVs now, and that's what they're looking for. It's got to be gigantic. It's got to have things that pull out from every side.
Yeah.
It's got to have a fireplace and granite countertops and all this. And then it falls apart in 5 years and you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Not unlike our suburban developments that were built in the 70s and 80s and 90s that are now no one wants, and they're the worst communities in cities around the country. And what's going to happen to all this stuff? And so I really feel that industry has given American people a much better opportunity to live mobily, but also to experience the country in a way that you can't. I mean, you've experienced it a little bit with me and watched my crazy antics over the years, but I really feel strongly about that. And I live in a mobile home that I bought used for $100 that was built in 1957 and is absolutely beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah.
And it's 336 square feet. It has everything that we need to live. It's perched on a beautiful piece of property with a great view. And I'm like, why would I want anything remotely like what most people seem to want? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are my three.
So what do you like about being an architect?
That's a good one too. I really love the education.
Absolutely.
And I know, and you were told this too, I'm sure, at Cal Poly, but the training you get in school is really training you to do just about anything. I truly think that. Yeah. It's just so well rounded, and but I had a professor in my 5th year at Virginia Tech. He was an industrial designer from Switzerland, and I'll never forget this lesson he taught me. It was, you design within your limits, whatever they are. Figure that out first. Once you figure that out, then you can do anything you want. And that's always stuck with me. And as I studied more and more and learned more and more, I thought about the whole adage of Mies van der Rohe's less is more, which is really quite true. We're not living that way now as human beings, unfortunately, but for the most part. But there's something to be said for that way of thinking. And so because of that training, I think it's been natural for me to move more and more into a life that isn't based on consuming vast quantities of stuff that we don't have enough of to begin with. And I think what I'm trying to do at this point in my career with the trailer restoration work and setting up the camp at my property and all that is to try to give people the opportunity to experience. I'm not about the cutesy nostalgic glamping stuff. I was initially. Then I realized there's a bigger, more important lesson that can be shared and learned, and that's what do you actually need? Like when we went to Mesa Verde, and we actually saw how those people
Yes.
lived.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the pit houses of the ancients. It's like, oh my God, the whole family, 15 people in that 8x8 square with a 2 foot below ground and a mud roof. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not that they were savages or anything, but they had what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To survive and live their life. So
And they lived there for what, the 250 years? Or,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that- and
just in the
one-
one place.
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't about like the entire civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think, you know, being an architect has helped me see the world through a very different lens.
Mhm.
I don't know why this is, but I think a lot of it has to do with going through that process of education and then working in the profession for a long time, working in big offices and working on giant projects and then doing houses and
Yeah.
working really intimately with people. Is that
Yeah.
I notice all the details, and I notice our urban world, which is sort of a very disturbing place.
Mhm.
And I don't mean that what's being designed is awful and ugly or anything like that, but you can use San Diego as a perfect example.
Mhm.
You go downtown by the ball field and the airport, and that island of, you know, it's beautiful, the streets are gorgeous, there's great places to go eat, there's just endless activity and blah blah blah. Go 3 blocks south
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and you have people living in tents
Exactly.
along the railroad
Yeah.
tracks.
Oh, yeah. I
And
mean, it's not even 3 blocks. You know, it's
Right.
It's right there.
it's right
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
it's, you know, the overpasses over the interstate highways that are federally owned overpasses, so the city can't take people off of them,
Mhm.
and they're filled with humanity living in broken down RVs and
Yeah.
tents, and you know, so all that's to say that I notice all that, and we all have to do a part,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is, whatever your part is, but we all
Mhm.
have to do a part to at least bring awareness, if not change.
Mhm.
And so I think because of the education, that's really the thing that I got the most out of it,
Mhm.
to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
totally
mean, I got to do
agree.
some really fun work. I've done some nice projects. I've won a couple of awards, but none of that's like matters. Does that make any sense? It's just like whatever, because I can do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
What I can't do is try to solve some of these massive problems that we have that are really because of our way that our society is run.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I went to I forget which Frank Lloyd Wright house it is, but it's by it's the one that they moved to Crystal Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the people that we were taking the tour with or whatever, they were like, boy, I can't believe that they lived in like this small of a space. And I'm like, what? That's what I keep trying to think, like how small of a space can you know, how small of a space can you live in, or like how, you know, I mean, like my existing house was 1,200 square feet. It was 3 bedroom, 2 bath. We added on this addition, it was like 485 square feet. Now we're doing the ADU and I'm like, 200 and 250. My brother like was pushing. I just wanted it to be 12 by 16. He's like, can we do 12 by 20?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, oh, okay. I really just wanted it to be 12 by 16.
But there's 6 of you living here.
Yes.
You're not.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
200
That's
square
200
feet a
square
person.
feet per person.
Right.
Exactly. Where it's not
That's-
like this
that's not outrageous.
enormous house. You know. Yeah. Yeah. Or somebody's saying like, why are there dog washing rooms? And I'm like, because they want them. Before that, it was you know, and working custom residential, people are like, oh, you know, it's like, is that the stuff that you want to do? I'm like, well, no, I mean, I did that stuff in LA, like working for other people. And I said, but I don't think that's my ideal.
Yeah.
You know, that's not even the ideal of some of the people that I worked, right? They have a business, right? They're working for people in the entertainment industry. That's what the people in the entertainment industry want to do. And then there's that trickle down from like, oh, people in the entertainment industry have this. You know, if a lot of people started living smaller, then that would probably be, you know.
I mean, just think about all the things that would be affected by a change in how we consume our living spaces on the planet. If we reduced it by 20% even,
Yeah.
it reduces everything.
Yeah.
All the problems with greenhouse gases and it's just unreal
Yeah.
to me that and being here, it was kind of shocking because
It is shocking. And like it was so funny because like as we started coming in, on the 8th, all of a sudden I was just like totally overwhelmed with how many people and how many houses.
Yes.
It was like from being in the Southwest, like going through the the Native American lands, going through the national parks, and just seeing that that there's so much land out there, and then all of a sudden, you're driving in, you're like, oh my gosh, there's like so many, there's like so many houses. It's so,
and just the way that they're placed in the landscape.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, something's gonna, it has to give it something.
Yeah.
It just does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening in Santa Fe too. There's a huge shortage of housing because a lot of people want to live there, and the solutions thus far have been really dismal. They're just copying the whole notion that, we've got this big piece of property that used to be a ranch, and before that was just open space. Let's subdivide it into tinier and tinier lots and fill them out as much as we possibly
with
can.
5-foot side yards. And
5-foot side yards and 4,000 square foot houses for 3 people.
Yeah.
And it's like when is the American public going to wake up and realize that it's not sustainable?
Yeah.
It wasn't even sustainable when your grandparents started doing it, and they didn't realize they were living in a world that they were told this is the ideal, but that ideal world never existed because it was all based on what white people wanted. Hate to say it, but that's the truth. Yeah. Everyone else was excluded from that dream.
Yeah.
And still is to a large degree.
Yeah.
And that's still what's driving the economics of building. And it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, and not having a multi-generational household,
right.
And
that's
and then
changing a little.
Yeah, it definitely is.
When you told me about ADUs as a matter of right now in California,
in the state of California,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That should be that way everywhere.
Yeah,
because then you're going to increase density by so much.
Yeah,
and you're going to get families staying together. And
and helping out with and helping out with each other, and not Yeah. So what do you want to say about the future of architecture?
I just said a lot. I
know. Yeah, some of the answers go into other things, but yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I don't know. I think one of the things that I think maybe that profession is still being taught in a less. There's some certainly changes that should be made, or evolution that should happen the way architecture's taught. I think young people go into those programs and they aren't lucky enough, as I was, and perhaps you were, to get the kind of attention that's needed to really drive your thinking and understanding. And then the profession itself, my personal feeling is the profession is just insidious and horrible, and I don't want anything to do with it, and I never have. And I've never had anything to do with it. I mean, other than the 8 years I worked in large firms.
Yeah.
I just found it to be incredibly cutthroat. And, working I worked for the very large international architecture and engineering firms, and I was always hired as the lead or head designer, like the VP of Design's assistant. That's what I did. And I would do everything with that person. It was always men, of course. And I would do everything with that person, follow them all over the country, and I would do lots of design work. I was given lots of things, fun, incredible things to do.
Yeah.
And And then one day, I was sitting, and I was like 38 years old, 39 years old, and, oh, we want to introduce you to whatever the guy's name was. I did everything with the computer, and I mastered modeling and rendering and all that stuff in the early 90s when nobody was doing it.
Yeah.
And it was like 1999, and bring this young guy in, and he's like, he can draw by hand with such a crazy story. And what do they call those Pantone ink pens?
Markers.
Markers, right?
Yeah,
Which I
markers.
never mastered.
No,
markers.
I know. I've never mastered markers either, and they're coming back in.
I
right?
know.
And then I'm like, oh my god,
Do I really have to do
yeah.
this?
Do I really have to do this? Like, I didn't like them back then. Give me a colored pencil, and I'm fine. But yeah, markers. It's like besides the smell, there was little else that I liked about them.
But they brought
speed,
this,
maybe.
But they brought this guy in, and the next thing I knew, I was done.
Huh.
I was replaced. I had been replaced, and the head person in the company, it was Jacobs Engineering, and it was their Virginia office, which was 300 people or whatever. You know, Jacobs is around the world. They're this massive, huge company. And the guy brought me in. His name was Tiny. Filipino guy who's really, really sweet. And he brought me into his office. He says, Michael, it's outside of my control. I did everything I could to prevent this from happening, but I got overrun by all the lower VPs, and I couldn't override their decision, and their decision was to hire whoever that kid was. And he said, it's never going to work.
I'll just call him Marker Boy.
Marker Boy, yeah. He said, it's never going to work, but it's what they want. He said, so I'm going to give you a special project number to charge your time to. And I want you to spend as much time as you need and work on your residential work that you have going on. That I know you're doing, because I would be in there after hours working on my projects. And so I spent a year charging time to some mythical project that Jacob Engineering paid me for, and did 5 or 6 big residential projects. And then I said, okay, Tiny, I think I've taken advantage of this long enough. I'm going to go do my own thing now. And he's like, you're going to do great. And I never looked back. But I always thought, you know, it took one person to show me some support, and it was him, and there was another one of the bosses that they really watched over me, because they knew that that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people get that kind of treatment. And
no, probably not.
No.
I mean, there are some that, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I think that sometimes residential is just, I mean, people just think of it as being kind of like, oh, it's residential, right? It's just a small, you know, it's like if you're doing this small project, like what's significant? I mean, you know, it's like, it's much more important, you know, for to have an airport or something in your portfolio and things like that. But I mean, there really is the people that do work on these big projects, and then they do have to do their home. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was going to be this complicated, right. Or I didn't, you know, I didn't, you know, and I'm
it
like,
has just as much decision making going on as anything else.
Yes, and it's more comprehensive, just as far as like everything that we have to know about, and then, you know, that kind of translates to fees when, you know, you're telling people, okay, the fees are going to be this, and they're like, oh, it's just a house, like you're just going to draw up a house. And then when they get into it and they realize how much detail there is with it, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it was going to be, you know, it was going to be this much time that you were going to be spending with us, or there were going to be this many decisions to make and things like that. But you know, yeah, I mean, it is, and it's very intimate. You know, I mean, residential is a very intimate.
But so is you know, hospital design. That was one of the things I got to do for a while, and I loved it because hospital design is a big, gigantic puzzle with a whole lot of different entities that have input in how that puzzle gets put together. Yeah. And you've got to be able to listen and understand what they need and organize it. And every little detail, forget architecture, just the details of how that building type functions.
Exactly.
It's just incredible.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I guess,
where it is, I mean, that also, I mean, that's something that, right, from like the past 5 years, I could probably design one for you, but it's,
sure.
unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, it is, and in that, it's really about, it's about creating spaces for people, but a lot of times the way that people work in that environment and the feelings that you want to create in that type of a setting are removed from that and kind of like reduced to like square footages or where the equipment goes or something like that. But those are all part of the
and part of the
part of
the education process. I think if I know we had like 1,000-hour requirement. We had to work. And whatever, and everybody cheated because no one could get a job because it was the 90s.
No, I think a lot of people still got their 1,000 hours. I got my 1,000 hours.
Yeah, I got some of it, but I didn't get all of it. I had to somehow I figured it out, finagled it one way or the other. But if you think about what the benefit could be or would be if instead of pushing students to go get a job somewhere, or pushing them to start their IDP, which I think is an absolutely ridiculous system, as you well know. Do some simulation. They when you go to business school, you go to get a degree in cybersecurity, you spend semesters doing simulated project work so that you're ready when you get out there in the real world to deal with real world problems.
Yeah.
You get out of architecture school and you're like, oh, I'm going to go and be, Mr.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then you get the job and you're like, oh shit, I got to detail toilets for years. I got to sit for 5 years and do a whole rack of shit off of a list to prove that I've done enough time. Intentions are good, but completely, it's all misdirected because the motivator is money. It's not really making better architects. So I think the future really depends upon the changes that get made, and I don't see any of that happening. I really don't. I follow it. I read about it. And I just think they're just making it worse. They're not making it better.
And I know that they try to they try to put it right. They're trying to put everybody into a box, which is typically what it is. Where it's like our career and the profession is not in a box.
Not a box.
There's a million different things that you can do, and that's one of the things that they tried to do with as far as a lot of architects that have gone into these other things, like architect as owner developer,
right.
All of these, architect as owner of of a business and restoration of airstrip, all of these other businesses, that they kind of have to say, okay, they're trying to, a lot of those people, they're trying to tell the schools, okay, this is like what we need. And they're trying to tell, places like NCARB and everything, like, hey, this is what the profession is becoming, or like these people are successful in architecture, right? And in the career, in their field and everything. And then we have to start to gear more of the architectural education towards this type of thing. So not everybody, it's not just geared towards, everybody's going to go and you're going to work for a corporate firm and like this is how and this is what you're going to do there, and put in your time, and then you'll move up the ladder, and then
that is
into
reality.
Into just the higher fire position.
Make sure you're ready to be laid off before the age of 50, and you may not get another job for 3 or 4 years, and then that one's going to be really tenuous, and you might be lucky to retire as an architect. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyways, hopefully, my pessimism isn't awful to listen to. But
I mean, you're happy with what you're doing. So it's like, it might not be the traditional, path. I mean, I don't think anybody's path. I don't see that my path was very traditional as far as like working for a small firm, but then like having my own firm, right, and raising my kids, and And but still having those projects
And being a female.
Yeah.
In a really, I was thinking about it last night, and how when we were in school at Cal Poly, you were a small minority.
Yeah, maybe like 10 out of like 75. Yeah.
And there were only a few, three female instructors, professors, and they were all treated like shit by the likes of Barry Wasserman and those other pigs that, they had no business doing what they were doing. And, and I hope all that's changed. I really do. I don't know if it has, but I think, the role of women in architecture, they're probably way better suited than most men. Honestly.
Yeah. It's funny. Somebody was talking about how, they're from Russia on this call this morning. They're from Russia, and, she said, it's more traditional, and like women aren't treated, as well as men. And I'm like, well, it still happens here. We're just not allowed to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then when we do talk about it, we're being like, why are you bitching about this again? Why are you bitching about this?
Because the power structure hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great because people are, diving into other businesses and exciting creative fields. I mean, things that I think are, really creative and and you're opening it up to other people that are in architecture that, maybe don't want that traditional, and then they can look to you and say, hey, look at what Michael Vallen is doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's hope.
There's hope. Okay, well, I know you need to get moving. You need to check.
They're going to take my trailer away from me.
Don't take Dimples.
Yeah, right. Where did he go? It's all packed up and ready to be towed, and then he left.
Anyway, okay, well, thank you so
Thanks.
much, Michael.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.